In this activity, we're going to learn how to play with the numbers. We're going to throw ballpark figures at new business models. So when we're talking about numbers, most people immediately think about spreadsheets. But spreadsheets are about very detailed, accurate financial reports, and that's not what we're talking about here. What we really want to know is if this is a big opportunity and how the dynamics of the business model work. So don't ever forget that numbers are an outcome of how you create value and how you deliver value. So in a business model, you have the value side, as we've seen in the theater analogy, which creates revenues. And you have an infrastructure side that you need to create this value, and the infrastructure side is what produces costs. And at the end of the day, the revenues have to be bigger than the costs. That's all we're trying to figure out here, and we can play with ballpark figures to learn about that. So we're not trying to figure out, is our idea 100% correct or accurate, or are the numbers in detail? What we're really trying to figure out here is something else. So we're not going to do spreadsheets. We're just trying to figure out, is this business model a big opportunity, and how do the dynamics of this business model work? The financial dynamics. That's what we're going to look at. Now, you want to work with rough models, remember, in prototyping, because otherwise you can't explore different business models with different financials. You won't have the time, and you won't come up with the best possible idea. So that's what we're going to do now. Now, in general, you can look at improving existing numbers, existing business models and their numbers, or you could look at how to invent new business models and explore possibilities. We're going to focus in this deck on exploring new possibilities, new business models. And the example we're going to look at is a medical technology device startup, and they're active in genetic testing. So they have an intellectual property, and based on that, they're going to offer a medical diagnostic device. And they're planning to sell that device through a third-party sales force who they hire and to whom they pay a transaction fee. So this will generate a one-time transactional sales. And to do that, they need a specific infrastructure. R&D, manufacturing, sales and marketing, working with original equipment manufacturers, and basically that generates the cost structure. So here we have the entire business model on one slide. But what we now don't know yet is, well, what about the financial dynamics? So of course we could go and make a spreadsheet, but that will take us a lot of time and we might go too much into the details. What we really want to do is something else. We don't need details here. We want a quick sketch, a quick prototype of the business model. And we can do that digitally, but in a more accurate and faster way than with spreadsheets. We're going to use Strategyzer to do that. I already prepared the business model canvas of our MedTech device company. And what we're going to do now is we're going to throw in some numbers. So we're going to estimate some rough numbers here, some ballpark figures. First of all, well, how many primary care doctors are there? Well, reports show, if you quickly Google it, that you'll find 110,700 primary care doctors in the US. So we have our first number in here. Now, we're going to throw in a revenue stream here. We're going to sell our device. But if we want to be more accurate here, we're actually selling through a third-party reseller, actually a sales force that we hired, so we will have to pay a transaction cut. So the formula here is slightly different. It's a sales minus a cut. And immediately, if we sell our diagnostic device to primary care doctors, we'll get the formula for this revenue stream. So we already have the market size, which was picked up from the canvas and the numbers we put in. We're going to say that we can probably reach 1 in 15 of all doctors, which gives us 6.667. That's 1 in 15. We can find this from industry reports as well. Well, how many times do doctors purchase a device like this? Well, it's just once. What's the average price? With a little bit of research, the team behind this company found that doctors value it at $5,000, but they're only willing to pay $1,000 for a device like this. And then we have to put in the transaction cut that we have to pay our hired sales force, and that's 50%. And this is the numbers for a year. So we can immediately see we earned $7.4 million from this medical device. And we can also see immediately that the cost for the sales force is $3.7 million, which is 50% of the transaction. So now we're going to throw in the costs here. How much does it cost to produce the devices? It's a variable cost, which is $225 approximately for each device. And we said before that we're selling 1 in 15, which is 6.667%, one-time purchase over a year. And it shows us that we have to spend $1.7 million on the manufacturing if this is how many devices we sell. So next point here, sales and marketing. The team estimated that they would spend about $900,000 to get this market share, which is obviously a pure assumption. And they know a bit more accurately that they have to spend about $75,000 on equipment to get this opportunity going. So immediately we can see all the numbers, and the profit here, if we go in the report view, is approximately 1 million. So we can see immediately how much we earn from this opportunity with this particular business model. Obviously these are assumptions, but we get an idea of the size of the opportunity and the dynamics of the business model. So you saw in Strategyzer that we can quickly sketch out the numbers here, and immediately we'll see the size of this opportunity, which is about $1 million. Now, the team behind this thought, well, that's probably not really worth it. We want to increase the opportunity here. We want to figure out a better way. So they looked at a different type of business model, and they thought of Nespresso. Nespresso actually changed the coffee business from a transactional business into one with recurring revenues, as we've seen. And the way they did it is by offering a base product and a consumable, which would create recurring revenues. So remember, base product. Based on the base product, they would build a consumable, and the consumable would generate recurring revenues. And to do so, they would obviously have to add the manufacturing of the disposable product here, but that would provide for a very, very powerful business model. So the team behind the MedTech company thought about disposable cartridges and testing strips as the consumable, just like we have the Nespresso pods for the coffee machine. And it turns out there's a precedent here in the medical technology industry. Well, glucose testing devices for diabetics. They have disposable cartridges and testing strips. So how does this look for our business model? Well, basically, we're going to add a disposable cartridge and test strips here that we're going to sell through the internet, and that's going to create the recurring revenues. And on the infrastructure side, what does that mean? We're going to have to add the production of these disposables. Now we have a new business model that we're going to look at in Strategyzer and quickly sketch out the ballpark figures. I already prepared the canvas with the recurring revenues in Strategyzer. So you have the disposable cartridges and the strips sold through the internet, producing recurring revenues, and the production here of the disposables. So let's throw in some numbers. Let's look at the recurring revenues and add a revenue stream. So basically we're selling the disposable cartridges and strips to our primary care doctors, and we get the formula. Well, remember, we're selling to 1 in 15, which is approximately 6%. How many strips are they going to buy? Well, different than the medical devices, they're going to buy many. They're going to buy 5. It's an estimate here at an average price of $75, and this every month, which gives us a pretty substantial revenue here of $33 million with no intermediary who's taking away money from us. Now let's look at the production side here. So we got to add some costs for the production of the disposables. It's also going to be a variable cost depending on how many of these we sold. And basically the cost for this is about $1.8 per unit. And we said our market share is 1 in 15 still. This gives us a number. And we said we're going to sell 5 of these cartridges and strips per month to each doctor. So the costs here are roughly $800,000. So we can immediately see this is a pretty profitable business model. So if we go in the estimates here, you can see that the profit is $33 million. That's pretty substantial and a different opportunity than what we looked at before. Now our little prototype in Strategyzer shows us that this is a much better opportunity, and that the size of the opportunity, if the hypotheses are right behind this assumption, behind this business model, is about $30 million. So that is a 30 times bigger opportunity finance-wise than the first prototype that we sketched out. Now, is that going to work? We don't know yet, but at least we're on the path for a better business model. So will you play with the numbers next time you prototype an idea?